Hello. So, hopefully, with a microphone, I can be heard this week, so we'll have to see. Of course, I'm turning away when I look here, so hopefully, while I'm drawing, we can hear what's going on. And, yeah, so let's get started. Wow. Okay, so second week, and let's just do a little drawing. So I started Inktober this year, and so far the first few days have just been sketchbook images from the Citizen Spaceman comic. So I've been sketching more ideas for that, and yeah, basically just putting the results kind of daily online. I hope to do some more developed drawings and not just sketch ideas, but I'm drawing and it's in ink, so hopefully some people will find that book and get interested. So let's see. I think when I warmed up I did the exact same drawing last week, but who knows. So I was talking today about memory, like so using reference photos and just drawing from your memory. And with this cartoon, I almost always just use my memory, and a lot of the times because the it's very specific objects like childhood memory kind of objects. Oof. Childhood memory objects and things. And I think if you use a photo reference and get everything exactly right, it's not that interesting because, you know, basically anybody can do that. But when you draw something from your memory, the things that you think are important, or the details that kind of stick with you are interesting. And I think that's a fun, I think the nostalgia, or just kind of the thinking about what you know, what things look like, what color they were. I think that's a little bit of the thing I think is fun with this cartoon. So a lot of the times I won't draw from memory, or will only draw from memory, and won't draw from a photo reference. And so that's why sometimes things are very wrong, or the wrong number of holes, or the wrong size cap, or whatever, because it is just a memory drawing. But there's something interesting about that. There's something that I really like about what you remember and what, you know, what sticks with you, because that's, yeah, that's part of it. I think your memory version is always more interesting. Cool. So this is kind of, not quite, kind of Japanese mayonnaise. I think I drew that exact same thing last week. But yeah, all mayonnaise here is in a squeeze bottle. And they have mayonnaise with different things in it, like mustard or maybe wasabi. But yeah, there's mayonnaise mixed with things. And very often a popular thing for kids, probably more young girls, is mayonnaise and ketchup mixed. So that makes kind of a pink creamy sauce, and that's Ororo sauce, like Aurora Borealis, Ororo sauce. So very pink, light ketchup mayonnaise. So if somebody asks for that, or you hear somebody say that, that's what they're talking about, a mixture of ketchup and mayonnaise. So what is that? Netherlands, Northern Europe, mayonnaise and French fries is pretty standard, and maybe ketchup is kind of rare. So here they have both. You've got both. You got your mayonnaise and you got your ketchup. And I've had some homemade ketchup here, and it's pretty amazing. You know, the quality of the produce here is amazing, and just, you know, the vinegar and things that they choose to use for their homemade ketchup, really, yeah, it was really impressive. Oh boy. So, mayonnaise. That lid is not great. Sure. Come up with something better here. So I hope the sound is working better than it did last week. Last week was the microphone, camera on the microphone, the microphone on the camera behind me was picking up the audio, and of course I'm talking away from it, and it picked up nothing except the Amazon delivery that came to the door. I think that's the only thing that people heard. So hopefully I have a microphone in a decent position and people can hear what's going on better, and hopefully not hear all that road noise. I'm in a building along a busy highway, so I hope none of that is picking up. It doesn't look like it, but we will see. All right. So, going here. Yeah, mayonnaise. Mayonnaise and ketchup. Hey, yeah, so I was starting again with mayonnaise. So let's try something else. Yeah, so, yeah, there is, like I was saying before about not drawing photo reference. I think that adds something to your work, and yeah, it makes it so maybe there's even unintended things that you include that I think are much more interesting. I think a lot of the times, people are shortcutting, they're tracing 3D models or using photo reference, and for fast commercial work, if you're doing backgrounds for comics or whatever, I guess that's fine, but the way that you draw something, the way that you remember it, if the realism isn't that important, I think that's good. I think there's a quality. I think there's something that you're getting from that you wouldn't be just looking at someone's photo of it. Yeah, and I think that is interesting, especially in the manga here. In Japanese manga, there's a lot of traced backgrounds and computer generated backgrounds and things, and a lot of the books are about nostalgia, or a lot of the books are written about an age, or the characters are an age that the creators aren't. They're looking back. So if they're using models or they're using photographs, it's, unless they're using photographs specifically from the from the year they went to school, the time they went to school, there's probably things that they are or not including, and that nostalgia, that Natsukashi feeling that is in a lot of Japanese anime, I think, disappears sometimes when they shortcut things like that, because the details and the old flip phones, flip cellular phones, clamshell phones and things, evoke a lot of that. So yeah, there's definitely something to that, and that's definitely something in this cartoon that yeah, there's a lot about. There's a lot of nostalgia, and I guess that's where some of the sadness comes from too. Always that looking back is not always super happy, because it's it's gone, it's in the past, all that good stuff. So yeah, the other thing that I'm noticing along with the memory, and I guess that's that's an interesting thing that's happening, is a lot of the times I would be drawing familiar items because they were items that were in my house or in my kitchen or whatever, and now I'm surrounded by, to American audiences, very unfamiliar shapes and containers and sizes and things, and I don't think I'm drawing things that look too Japanese, but I definitely think like my warm-up mayonnaise, that I'm always at risk of doing that, of showing the location where all of this is generated, so kind of losing losing that sense of you know, all those American shapes and colors and objects. You know, things are much less brightly colored here. There's a lot more subtlety in labeling and everything. So yeah, that definitely changes things. So we're doing jars of things now. Yeah, I don't know. So hopefully we can keep at, oh, that's a bad one. Hopefully we can keep at this. And as far as Citizen Spaceman that I mentioned, that's kind of the subject of my Inktober work so far. Hopefully we will have another book before the end of November, because that is Kaigai Manga Festival Tokyo. So it's the show where they have a lot of foreign creators. It's held at the same time as the Komitia, which is another doujinshi show here in Japan. And it's a great show, and you get to see, you know, some great creators, both Japanese and foreign. And then after that, the weekend after that, actually early December, is the Tokyo Comic-Con. So the second annual. First one last year, they actually brought 90-year-old Stan Lee over here. I don't know how he made that flight. That's a miserable flight even from Los Angeles, but they had Stan Lee come to Tokyo. And so, yeah, this year they haven't talked much about the guest list so far, and it's, you know, it's in December, so they should have some idea. But yeah, so Tokyo Comic-Con. And so it's the second year they've done it, so I'm hoping, it doesn't look like their numbers are very big yet, but I'm hoping that that will be fun. It had a kind of mysterious application process, but I paid and got in, so I got in and then paid, so I guess that confirms everything. So yeah, so we'll see how that goes. So my first artist alley in many years. I think it was 2006. San Diego was the last time that I was at a show, a comic show in America. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, and we'll see. I'm curious what kind of audiences, because there's a decent percentage, but it's a small percentage of you know, Japanese people that are interested in Western comics. There's a lot of translation of Marvel and DC comics here, but there's not a lot of people. And I think, you know, of course, the majority are all fans of Japanese creators and Japanese manga. So it's a niche market, to say the least. I think, you know, people think things are cool here. They like the image. It's, you know, it's foreign. You know, it has that appeal, but it's not. There aren't people that regularly read, I think, a lot of foreign titles, and they like the novelty of it, or like they like the, you know, cool, you know, Western look, or the, you know, outsider look, but they don't support anything very regularly compared to the Japanese creators. And I think just because it's relating to it, that's a little hard. I think here a lot of people you know, really into character and story, and so it has to be something that they relate to. And yeah, so there's some limitations for foreign creators. I think some of the people that I've met that are foreign creators that are, you know, doing their own work, doing personal work in Japan. Personal work is just about Japan, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the feel of that is, but yeah, so that's the thing that I've seen. There's kind of, you know, a certain expectation with story and characters, but who knows? I'm old. I may be completely wrong. Draw the label or not draw the label? The question. Oh. All right. A lot of jars. Yeah, the other. Yeah, I'm wondering how good or how interesting a stream this actually makes. But there's always a lot of stuff to talk about. So even if watching this drawing isn't very interesting, hopefully the talking is something to have on in the background. Yeah, maybe eventually I can annoy people by Skyping in some other artists to keep me talking. That might be fun. I think the two-way discussion, about doing work and creativity is much more fun than just a single opinion, because people get pretty set in their ways after doing something long enough. I don't think I'm very open to changing the way I do things, and it would be nice to hear a couple of different opinions or approaches, I guess is a better word. Approaches to doing work. Wow. But the thing about this that I like the most is how it motivates you. I need to, keep on a schedule, and feeling like I need to go, live at a certain time and do that really helps. I mean, it really, I didn't have a good regular time. God, what is this? I didn't have a good regular time that I was drawing, so it was very irregular and just kind of, dribs and drabs, and would kind of come in at different times. And I think doing something regularly, and especially in the morning, I always seem to do better. Earlier with creative work, I mean, I get most of the stuff finished late at night, but you really can pick up momentum, go after things earlier in the day, I've found. Wow, look at that. Okay, let's keep at it. I don't think I've hit on anything that I actually want to make a joke about. Yeah, it's funny. Oh, so yeah, talking about the kind of medium, or how I'm doing this and how I was doing this. So originally this started as Sharpie on just copy paper, just the cheapest paper I could find, and just scanning that and then coloring it in Photoshop. So ultimately it would come into Photoshop. And maybe 5 years ago now, I started to just draw straight digitally. So starting with the Wacom tablet, and now moving to the Cintiq, which I think simulates a little bit more, or just gives a little bit better feel when you're drawing. I'm sure it's much better when you're actually painting and things, but when you're drawing, I like the more visceral kind of leaning over what you're drawing, and the angles that you're doing things, when you're kind of, your hands are all focused on the tabletop, and you're leaning over the screen, but not making, I don't know, I like the position of your body, and how you're thinking about the pressure of your pen and everything in this position. I think it works really well. And so I started to do things completely digitally, and I think you might be able to tell. I mean, I think there's a certain point, because I scan things in basically as bitmaps, so the line quality, or the the texture of the line and everything, is going to be pretty much the same, because I reduced all the gray out of it. There's no aliasing. It's just high resolution bitmap. So it's going to look pretty similar to me drawing straight into the computer. Just the variation of the line and things, I think, will be different. So you can probably notice that if you go through the older cartoons and kind of see what's going on. So a free book for whoever can identify the first cartoon that was drawn digitally. maybe 5 years ago. Yeah, 3 to 5 years ago. So go back through that archive and see what you can find, and I'll send you a book. But it's a yeah, it was interesting. I was worried because now I'm not creating original art. I mean, the black and white Sharpie drawing was a byproduct of creating the cartoon. It wasn't the finished cartoon. It didn't have the joke written on it, although sometimes I would write it in pencil on the front or the back of the Sharpie drawing. But there isn't original art, so I'm not producing anything. So the first 10 years, yeah, the first 10 years, I had a piece of paper that was the line drawing of that cartoon. And since I switched to digital, it's all digital. And, an archive can disappear, a hard drive can die, don't pay for your cloud service backup and it's gone. It's a little, that's unsettling because it's very delicate. I think the ability to lose everything that you've done is much more possible than if it was paper and needed to burn or be flooded by water. So that is a little uncomfortable, and I don't feel like I'm generating as much. I'm still making cartoons, but they are just a digital file, and so just duplicate it in as many places as you can. But you never know. All of those places eventually something could happen, and that feels strange. I mean, I wouldn't mind a room full of thousands of these drawings on pieces of paper, as opposed to a few hard drives and backup services and things with copies of them. Definitely feels strange, like you're doing less, you're creating less, even though digital comics and electronically, ideally you're reaching a wider audience. You have the capability of reaching many more people than something in print or something on paper. But I still don't like the ephemeral, is that the word? Nature of digital work. Just feels like it could go away, and in some cases it's probably not a bad thing. I mean, I think if you lost all the work you did in your 20s, I don't think you would be worse off for it. I had an instructor in Chicago that actually happened to her. She was the musician, and everything that she had ever written went up in an apartment fire in her 20s. And she said, creatively it was very freeing. You kind of got out from under all of that stuff that you were stuck in, all of those things that you thought were good ideas in your 20s. And then in your 30s, you were kind of free to, take what you learned from that, but start creating things that are new. And yeah, I always remember that because that sounded so terrifying, especially, when I was that age, when I was in my 20s, like, oh my God, losing everything I've done while I was in school, and everything sounds horrifying. But yeah, with age, you realize, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Maybe every 10 years, you should just, get rid of everything and keep going. I don't know. Yeah, digital versus analog. Yeah, that's something that I'll probably keep coming back to, because that's always something I'm thinking about with work. Because with the comics, I'm printing physical books, and that's the way I want it to be read. But I should probably just put it online. I should probably just have as many people read the digital version as possible. But I really like the book as an object, and you really feel like you made something when it gets printed. So I'm torn. It's hard to hard to be born a little bit before that changeover. In fact, that was a very frustrating thing to come out of undergrad in the mid 90s, because everything that I was learning, optical printing and work prints and editing film physically, for animation, was just meaningless very quickly. Very quickly, I was obsoleted in things that I had paid to learn. So it was just right at the beginning of kind of desktop digital animation, and the power of the computers wasn't there yet. The power of digital video wasn't even there yet. But yeah, it was it was a very frustrating time. Yeah, because basically I had to enter the workplace and learn everything, learn desktop publishing and digital graphic design and digital animation and everything on my own, either on the job or from home on my own, just with the software. And yeah, that was strange. The timing was just really odd because animation was slowly becoming all digital and everything was slowly becoming all digital, but the schools were still teaching a lot of photochemical, old 16mm film tricks. All right, so I don't know what any of this is. Let's keep going here. Yeah, so this is, I guess, kind of become my process, is just, drawing objects and things that I'm kind of thinking about, or things that, interesting shapes or whatever, and kind of putting those ideas together. Sometimes I will come, to the drawing with the idea and just have to draw my joke or draw the situation. And sometimes you can see that, I think, when it looks like I'm illustrating an idea instead of, talking about things that, may or may not be going on in the drawing. I think when I illustrate things, it's sometimes a little bit more fun or a little bit more dynamic. You can tell where the idea comes before the cartoon, or the cartoon, creates the idea. The drawing informs the writing, or vice versa. But I do both of those things, because you'll get an idea in your head. I think, like, a few weeks back, a baked potato with a whole stick of butter jammed into it. That was an image that just kind of popped into my head, and the joke, of course, just followed. The potato was a vehicle for butter delivery, but yeah, it goes both ways with how the idea comes, or if the drawing comes first. Oh, yeah, of anything that I'm just dying to get out. Oh, let's see. Yes. Yes, college in the analog days. Oh my god. When I was a kid, when I was your age, we drew on paper and put it under a animation stand. Yeah, that's a pretty crazy thing, and it felt very strange. And I still remember I didn't have my first computer until after university. Of course, all the in the 90s, all of the art school computer labs were all Mac, and I think because they had put emphasis, they had a good relationship with Adobe, and they put emphasis on desktop publishing, and then probably Apple was giving away computers to fill up computer labs, so everybody came out of school trained on Macs and not PC. So there was a Mac laboratory, and I just never took anything that used it, because animation didn't use it, film department didn't use it, oil painting, figure drawing didn't use it. So yeah, it's a very strange thing, and you just had to kind of learn everything from the beginning. And I remember, though, talking to instructors that were teaching desktop publishing and were actually working in that field at that time, and they said they were all English majors. They were all English majors that wanted to be journalists, that ended up getting into journalism, the kind of design route. So what they would do is just kind of self-teach themselves Quark Express, or that was, I think, the most popular thing back then. They would just teach themselves that, and that's how they made themselves relevant, or made themselves necessary in their job. But they initially, I think, all wanted to be writers. They were all English majors that learned design, although I think English major is kind of a catch-all degree. I think a lot of people in liberal arts programs that don't know what they want to do, they're English majors, and that turns into something else. Although now I think they break it down into so many ridiculous things, communications and whatever, that maybe that's not the case anymore, but yeah, it used to just be English majors, and you would turn into a filmmaker or a screenwriter or whatever with your English degree. But yeah, that was back in the day. I can't believe there was a back in the day. I remember when I used to be marketed to, and I wasn't just remembering things. Yeah, so talking about nostalgia, that's a thing that keeps coming up. Movies and TV shows and games have had a lot of that recently, and I think it's a both a market that they're looking at, but also the creators. Now, there's so many 30-somethings in the workplace, making those decisions either as executives or the creative people making those decisions about what they're going to market. So it's Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters and everything. And there's a funny nostalgia because a lot of that stuff, people were really young. Even the people they're marketing at were very young. It's kind of like if they were marketing, early 70s cartoons that I could barely remember as just kind of a strange, artifact. I think there's a lot of people that, they're basically toddlers when those original shows or movies or whatever were out, and now they're remaking them. So in that same way that I was talking about no photo reference, I think we're seeing that. We're seeing people that were too young with kind of a dim recollection of things trying to create those things in that genre. So if you look at like the Netflix show Stranger Things, it got a lot of things wrong, and I think the tone didn't ring very true, but that was because it was kind of an interpretation. That was their 80s, the Duffer Brothers 80s that they remember, and it's kind of an amalgamation. I mean, it's seen through the eyes of people that were very young and kind of looking up to all of the those junior high school kids, or the kids in their neighborhood that were really old enough to enjoy and experience those things, and just seeing that as something to just admire or look up to. And so now they're making media with that same kind of admiration and nostalgia for Spielberg movies or Stephen King books or whatever, but it's there's definitely something that's changed in the translation. And I was talking to a friend about that, and the one thing that really seemed to be the case is there's an innocence in a lot of 80s media. And it wasn't an innocent time, but I think there's a lot of innocence in that strange way that they were creating the the new 50s, that kind of odd Reagan era kind of thinking, so that there was an innocence in a lot of the media. And when you're trying to recreate that in this post 9/11, post Columbine world, that's very difficult. I think there's so much cynicism, and there's so much just negativity or pessimism in a lot of people's attitudes that you're not going to be able to simulate the kind of optimism or just kind of upbeat thinking or innocence that a lot of that media had. So it looks and feels very dark. I mean, I think Stranger Things came across very dark. I think it was supposed to be set in Indiana, but it looked like an X-Files episode from the 90s. It was very dim and dank and surrounded by giant pine trees. It felt like E.T. in that way, but also a lot of the things that were shot in the Northwest or in Canada during the 90s. So just a little bit too dark and mysterious for, I think, what was going on in 80s media. But I really think that is, I think, people, as they became adults, were affected by a lot of things, and I think that was one of them. So even though they have nostalgia for the 80s, they don't have a really clear picture. They're looking at it through Columbine colored glasses. I don't know, but it's something that made them much more negative, and that changes the tone. I think they get the tone wrong, simply because of something like that. Yeah, I was watching the Black Mirror episode San Junipero, after it won the awards. I had seen it originally when it was on Netflix, and watched it again. And they do the same kind of nostalgic thing, except, the gimmick, this is spoiling the whole episode, but the gimmick is it's a simulation, it's a virtual reality with people's consciousness uploaded to it. But, I guess for the sake of what they were doing, they got a lot of things wrong, and they made a lot of odd choices for music and things. But that was, of course, serving the story. And until you knew what was going on, all you had is the suggestion from the song titles and things of what the real situation was. And I think that became kind of strange. It seemed like a real strange limbo, a real not well represented 80s or 90s to be, if that was your childhood or whatever, to have your consciousness sent back to that and have to live that your whole life is a little bit of a purgatory more than it is a paradise. Yeah, it felt funny in that way. It's like, yeah, of course you're gonna have this, people that weren't born then creating the simulation of that time, and it's gonna be wrong. I mean, they may reference the correct, appropriate movies that were released during that year or whatever, but apart from that, they're going to get a lot of things wrong, and so that would make it a bit more of a hell than a heaven, I think, digitally. I don't know. But but nostalgia, that keeps coming up, and I'm sure will, until it's not profitable, but yeah, it will for a while. All right, let's actually get some drawing done. I can't draw and talk at the same time, so I don't know how good an idea this is. Let's see, because I think I talked a lot less last week, but I got a lot more drawing done. Yeah, so if anybody else is doing Inktober, message me. I'd like to follow whatever you're doing. I don't know, because I think people are posting on Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff, but yeah, to see what everybody's doing. And I think anybody, anything, all these little silly gimmicks are just always a way to give people an excuse to draw, to do something, and to if they're having inspiration trouble or whatever. I think there's like a list of themes for Inktober that people can focus on. But yeah, so this is the first year. I think I posted once or twice in previous years, but just didn't have the time or didn't have the motivation. But now that I've got the comic book story that I'm constantly thinking about, it's a lot more easier. I don't need outside inspiration. I got stuff that I'm trying to work on, and I really like how it looks in the brush drawing, the Fude pen brush drawing in ink. I love that style so much, and it's funny because I have no idea why I'm not doing the comic that way. I think part of it was just practical. I need to a chubby little flashlight. I think I need to have the art be very flexible, kind of modular, because I don't want to flip things, but I do need to reverse compositions and things, when it's lettered in Japanese. So the book, for anybody that hasn't seen that book, it's a 24-page comic, but it's bilingual, half and half. So of course English is read left to right, Japanese right to left. So I just put the two books together, and then the story meets in the middle. The climax of the story is the center, the splash page, the center page. And yeah, I thought it was a good gimmick to kind of give me a reason to do it bilingual and have the books be interesting, have there be a specific reason why I was publishing it that way. So I think that in a way necessitated the art style. I just liked it very clean. I think the setting and everything looks very clean, but I probably will have to at some point post the sketchbook pages, the kind of the origin of that idea. I think it will be interesting to see people's reaction to the original artwork, because I do like that style very much too. So it's funny that I settled on a very sterile kind of geometric final look for the book. But yeah, it just seemed to work best. Oh, I just draw these very creepy light bulbs. Saggy, sad little light bulbs. Ugh. I don't know. Yeah, I still remember. Every time I draw this, I remember of the old bulb envy joke. That's hysterical. Go dig that one up. It's a light bulb and a flashlight facing each other. Yeah, so I noticed, so speaking of bilingual cartoons, this cartoon, Domestic Abuse, is very untranslatable. I just don't think it doesn't have a universal appeal. I think I'm, because I'm referencing some, kind of specific kind of American sensibility and things, I think it just doesn't translate well. And even a lot of Americans don't seem to find any connection with it, but it's yeah, it just doesn't seem to translate well. So the idea would probably be better served if I just met a Japanese writer and just had he or she using the art rewrite Japanese humor, because I think the sensibility is so different, and translating is just, it's impossible. It's just, the joke is not funny, and just doesn't work. So but I think that style, the gag cartoon style, is not common here either, so there really isn't a good sensibility, like how to write that or how to read that. The most common thing that would be a comic strip is the yonkoma, the kind of four panel comic strips are very common if you're going to see something just drawn very casually, and that has a very long history and a very set structure, and I'm sure people kind of rebel against that structure and have tried to do newer different things with it, but for the most part it's pretty rigid, how you represent your story, how you tell your joke in those 4 panels. So I don't think, single panel gag cartoons, there's not even a big political cartooning tradition here, because there can't be a lot of dissenting political voices, but yeah, it's much more rare. But it would be nice. It would be nice if this has somehow worked. I mean, I think some people visually get interested in it, and anything written in English can be somehow appealing, to Japanese audiences. But the humor itself is inaccessible. Oh, I have no idea what's going on today. Yeah, too much stuff, negative stuff that isn't gonna make its way into this cartoon. So, but they do have this in Japan, the mustard ketchup squeeze bottles. What was that? First Kitchen? Freshness Burger had these. The 50s drive-in style ketchup and mustard. Yeah, and I think a lot of the restaurant supply places and things here have these as well. Don't see them on the tables that often. Oh, there we go. There's something. But you definitely don't see those horrible glass bottles here either. Those bottles that they made out how many television commercials about the Carly Simon Anticipation song, because you have those horrible little glass ketchup bottles on the table. A very distinctive shape, and just designed so badly that you're never gonna get that ketchup out of there in any time soon. Remember that, kids? I'm sure there's still cheap-ass diners in America that have glass ketchup bottles, and the most nauseating thing is to see when they're either resetting or consolidating the condiments on the table, and you see those bottles strapped together with some sort of little double cap, and so you're draining the contents of one half-used, who knows how many months old ketchup bottle into another one to try to make one full. I guess filling them isn't really an option, but I have seen them. So what I'm talking about, I got both. What I'm talking about is, and I think I've actually done a cartoon about that, is this bottle is, and the other one like this, and there's some kind of rubber tubing or something, so you see a booth table full of ketchup bottles like this, with the old one on top and the new one, or the one half full, the other half full, and draining slowly into each other. I think I've definitely have done that as a cartoon already, but yeah, that's just really gross to look at. Whoa! Oh, that's right, I've got double. But yeah, the glass ketchup bottle. I don't think I'm hitting the shape of that exactly right, but if it's red, I think you'll get. Yeah, I think there's it's much more angular. It doesn't have a graceful curve. It's pretty much boom, boom. Yeah, like a slightly bigger version of the Tabasco shape. Yeah, but yeah, glass bottle, squeeze bottle. There we go. Okay, let's get rid of the illustration there. Okay, but I think it's pretty thin. That's not right. But we'll see. This will work. Yeah, I think this has got to be one of them. Yeah, these are pretty tall too. A little bit longer in the neck. Yeah, that's it. Oh, it's all about the ketchup. All right, so I think we got one at least. Yeah, and the color of the plastic bottles is, of course, not quite ketchup color. It's just bright red. I better do crazy. And of course, the color of ketchup isn't crazy. The glass bottle. See, warmer, yeah. Warm ketchup color. Yeah, close. There we go. And we need the app. As you know what brand we have to do. Okay, yeah, and let's make it a little petite. Yeah, maybe not. reference to that. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. All right. Label. Yeah, so that's one of my favorite nostalgia-y things is the, you know, the labels. I guess it's just this with the oh, you know what? Is it this? E. Yeah, I think older ones did have the two labels like that. And then the labels. Try that again. It's color, but that. Yeah, we'll try it like that. Yeah, this looks really familiar, but I'm not sure if it was the, you know, tabletop or the, you know, diner version that did that. I don't think it was, but it's fun. I like the look. Ooh. Okay. All right. So let's try that. Maybe just a little bit. Yeah. So the yeah, also the color scheme of this cartoon, I've always kept it kind of muted. Yeah, nothing, you know, too bright. And I think that helps for printing it too. No, I don't have any. Well, I don't have any colors that are too unprintable. Like things are MYK friendly, so that's helped me a lot. Printing, I get pretty reliable results. All right. Oh, look at that. That red. Not care at all. Look at that. Oof. This one. Yeah, there we go. Labels back. Okay, and then a little bit of all right. So I remember when I first started doing this back in 2002, I submitted it to a British magazine that had a call for cartoons, and the reply, I got a reply back, so that was happy. That was encouraging because yeah, a lot. There's usually when you submit things, it's a lot of silence, but I think in my early works there was a lot of puns, and the editor wrote back and said, I'm not sure if this is the way you want to go with this, and I don't, you know, really know, you know, if there's a market for this kind of idea, but thanks for submitting. And it was really, yeah, it was a very funny, you know, it was a very funny response and kind of negative comment. And I think the funniest thing is it didn't deter me in the least. I didn't see that as, yeah, maybe I should, you know, make sure I'm, you know, I've got a good idea, and that this is worth pursuing. And yeah, that was one of the amazing things is this cartoon just couldn't be stopped as far as, you know, like how I was preoccupied with it and how I kept, you know, just kept producing it. And I think that's, you know, an important thing. Any idea you have, especially if it's, you know, something like this, like a daily or weekly kind of thing, that, you know, the proof that anybody wants to see if they're going to support it is its longevity. You know, does that idea, after it's extended out, you know, after, you know, a year, 2 years, do you have enough to actually make that work? Do you have enough, is there enough there? And, you know, whether it's character based or, you know, just gags and jokes, you know, do you have enough to really sustain. You know, does it have legs? Is it sustainable? And you know, a lot of ideas aren't, or you know, a lot of ideas start really strong and then just, you know, there's nowhere to go with it. So I think that's an interesting thing to consider, especially when you're trying to get somebody to support your idea. You're trying to get syndicated or try to get people to follow something. Is they, you know, they can really feel like, wow, that's just keeps going. There's a lot of something. There's a lot of content there. Yeah. So basically, when I first started doing this, you know, I was working full time and. But also doing this as a daily cartoon on the side, and I did that for 2 years before I got noticed. Like I started to do, you know, self-print little books and things and bring them to Comic-Cons, and started to get some attention for it. But the web comic itself, I think, got a lot of people reading it. I don't know if I got it on the right websites or, you know, listed in the right way, but it got a lot of people reading it, and so developed an audience. A lot bigger, a lot more of an audience than I had known about. So when I was doing conventions, people would recognize it. People would say, "Oh, I've read this," or "I know this," and that was amazing. That was really shocking for me. But it definitely took those 2 years of doing it daily, because then that was already, you know, 700 some cartoons to kind of then show somebody and say, "Yeah, I had this idea and I've done this many." So it didn't take long. It didn't take long to get to 1,000, but then, you know, the you know, life got in the way, and the ability to generate that much, that many cartoons, you know, to do daily just ended up not being worth it. It just needed to kind of just limit it to what I could get done in a week. So that's maybe where the audience can come in. I think maybe a Patreon or something might help make this a daily thing again. I think it reads much better daily, because if it's weekly or just a little bit more than weekly, when you get one of those bad ones, it doesn't hurt as bad if you can go right to the next day and get another new one. So I think it evens out the quality. It evens out the quality a lot more when there's more to read. So then a bad one isn't quite as heartbreaking. Yeah, so the getting it out of him is the phrase that as soon as I drew that I was thinking of. Yes, so I guess we can sit and watch me think. But before we do, we should do, as you always have to have, some weird suggestion of what was in the bottle, not in the bottle. Yeah, I don't know why. I always like to do that, like little, especially if it's red, it always looks like blood evidence. Little dots of things that should be in the bottle, not in the bottle. All right. Okay. So now it's going to be hard to talk and think at the same time. I guess I just have to talk this out loud, so I don't know how interesting this is going to be to listen to, but to talk through my ketchup joke out loud. It was hard to get anything out of either of them. That's not true, and it's a typo. Yeah, I don't think that's it. And I think I just wanted to contrast the Oh, that's right. The label is angled. That's it. That's what it is. I don't think it has the cut-ins on it, but it is definitely rolled like that. That's it. Yeah. All right. Let's go back. All right. But I still have this. Yeah, that I'm still not sure about, but I like that, so we'll put that in there. Yeah, and maybe there was a. Oh, the. Yeah, maybe there was some kind of, crest or design up there too. That seems kind of familiar. Right. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Yeah, I like. Um. Yeah, but the ketchup being difficult to get out of the bottle joke. I don't know. Oh, is it the bottom? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. We'll go with that. Okay, and back to not quite that. Oh, yeah, but that's not right. Okay, so is okay. Let's do that. Okay, and we'll angle that up. See, when it comes to having to write the joke, then I just start fussing with the artwork because I can't think of the joke. Okay, so it's the difference. So the joke is the contrast between the new and the old bottle, the easy squeeze bottle and the hard to shake it out. Can't get a vacuum going inside the glass bottle. Let's see. So, okay, I'll just leave it up to the readers. Of them was very difficult to get anything out of. Oh, but then I don't want to. Yeah, I think this is the least streamable part, is writing these jokes. So maybe I should make an effort to, like I used to. I used to keep a notebook and write a lot of ideas down, and just go through that for inspiration. I haven't done that in a while, but yeah, should go back to start making a list of funny bubblegum ideas and. Yeah. So one of them, yeah, I like that phrase because that's very, when you're trying to blame something, you're trying to blame someone and say, well, one of us isn't talking, or one of us isn't dealing with this situation. Yeah. Oh boy. Let's see here. Yeah. So one of them. Yeah, one of them was. It's gonna be a psychological joke. Pun, I guess. A lot of these are puns. Very bad. Yeah, and I guess it's a because the squeeze bottle is almost too easy. If it's not almost empty, you don't have to squeeze it very hard, and fountain, a torrent of ketchup. Maybe that's the joke. The extreme. Oh, there we go. That might work. Oh, but I really like the one of them. Okay, so let's see here. Let's make a duplicate. I'm gonna there. They were two extremes. They were the easiest and most difficult way to do the exact same thing. Yeah, I think if you enjoy reading this, you definitely don't want to watch this or even listen to this stream, because I'm just going to be explaining, slowly crafting and explaining a joke, and I don't know how much that completely ruins. When then you see the final thing, you're like, yeah, right, yeah, I don't know how that's going to impact. You can enjoy this, having it slowly created and explained, but it gets it made, so it's on purpose. They were the easiest and most difficult way to do the exact same thing. Yeah, that works. Yeah, I liked the. I always liked the showing interpersonal conflict, or in a disagreement or in a disagreeable situation together. Played out through these food items. So this isn't quite doing that. So I usually like that a lot more. That's why I like the one of them wasn't. Yeah, okay. Okay, see, it just happens. Okay. See, as soon as I make myself laugh, then I know. I know. Then I know I've got it. One of them wasn't making this very easy. And of course, brevity and wit and all that good stuff. So, and then, so I always have two feelings when I'm working on this cartoon. The first, when I finish one, the first thing is I've written this exact same thing before, and the second one, is well, I think this is funny, but nobody else will. But as soon as I make myself laugh, then that's the good enough alarm. Yeah, so and there we go. As far as this isn't a very universal joke, I don't think. That kind of colloquial English, and a squeezed bottle of ketchup versus a glass bottle of ketchup, I don't think a lot of that's going to make it into much of an international audience. But yeah, one of them wasn't making this very easy. There it is. Just all comes together. I mean, watch me suffer through it. All right. There you go. There's one, and let's do that again. All right. So, ketchup. Yeah. It's just magical, isn't it, when it just all comes together like that? And that really is the way that I measure any of this. I just draw and write until I make myself, and then okay, there it is. That's done. Maybe that's why this is the only creative process I've been able to kind of sustain or be able to do, because it's measurable. That amusing yourself is much more measurable. When you're doing a long form story, or trying to express something or get something across, you know, you have no idea if it's ever going to resonate with anybody else. And if you feel it's important, that's great, but it may not have any, you know, anything for anybody else to, you know, to kind of get a hold on, or it may not resonate with anybody else. So I think it's easy to yeah, just to be too introspective and too uninteresting. And so for me, this is a good quick way to communicate with people. But if I amuse myself, then I know at least something happened, you know. At least if anybody has any kind of sense of humor, you know, similar to mine, that same thing may happen. So, and here's a little thing. Let's just think of this real quick. We got these guys. Yeah, so this was a lot of drawing. I probably should have put this where I stopped. I shouldn't show this on the stream, but oh, there we go. All that drawing, I just transferred it to another. Okay, that's ketchup. That's a light bulb. That's a flashlight. Yeah, so was there anything in there that even had anything going on? I always liked the yeah, boxes. And that was a cork, I think, but it could be anything. Wow, so light bulb. All right, well, let's just keep going, see if there's anything else that links any of this stuff together. Wow, the creative process, if you can call it that. But I think, you know, people that don't make things, people that don't try to be creative, that's always the strange question you get from them. How did you come up with that? Or how did you do that? Or where did you get that idea? And it's always, yeah, that always just sounds really strange, because it just sounds like they've never tried. Because I mean, you know, I think anybody is capable of, on, you know, different levels and in different ways, of making something from nothing. And when you hear people that are completely mystified by that, I mean, it also sounds like they would fall for a lot of, you know, they're pretty big suckers for sleight of hand magicians and things. But when you hear people ask that, it's just like, what, haven't you ever tried to do it? It's really not that hard. I mean, if you you know, care about it, if you have some sort of motivation, you have some sort of intention, you have something that you want to do, coming up with it is kind of the easy part, you know, coming up with those ideas. And that's the fun part. It's actually following through with that idea, or, you know, completing something, or that's the hard part. And that's what, you know, if somebody gets paid to be creative, that's what they're getting paid for. It's to pay to actually finish it, you know, actually be able to meet a deadline or get something produced of a certain quality, you know, in a timely manner. That's basically what a creative professional gets paid for. They don't get paid for their idea. So when people stop at that idea and are just like, wow, how did you ever come up with that? That's not the point. I don't know. Yeah, that's just that's something that's always funny to me, because you can tell people that have never tried to do anything, because it's the first thing they will say is, wow, where do you get your ideas? How did you come up with that? Because that's not the hard part. I mean, I guess having a good idea is difficult. I'm not going to claim that I've ever had a good idea, but you know, I think it's actually just being able to produce it, just being able to make something is finish something is the actual challenge. I don't know, but you know, that's me talking from my own perspective. But I just think that's really funny that that's the first question you get. Wow, how did you come up with that? Where did all these things come from? Yeah, it's all out there. Okay. Oh, something in a box. Okay, so maybe no light bulb and no battery. But something that doesn't fit in a box, that sounds good. So we have this and we have this. Okay. Yeah, so something that is not going to fit in this box. Oh, and maybe we'll do some ribbon or something. Tie this box up with a piece of lovely cloth ribbon. All right. That'll do it. Yeah. Whoa, sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, that's the. I don't know how interesting this is going to be to anybody, but that's the thing I've been really battling with is that Windows Ink workspace. It's insanely incompatible with a Cintiq tablet, and yeah, it's just always doing nonsense. There's like all of these commands and gestures and stuff that are like, you know, sitting on top of the Wacom software, and I, you know, think because it's, you know, baked into Windows, you know, it gets higher priority, it gets treated better, and so I'm having all kinds of weird things happen that I have to go figure out how to turn off in Windows that are yeah, they've been a whole new miserable part of the drawing experience in Windows 10. I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, obviously they're in love with their Surface tablets, and Microsoft just loves making hardware, and yeah, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure if I had a Surface, it would be brilliant and be wonderful using that ink space nonsense, but yeah, I don't want to work that way, and I don't, you know, I want to use what I'm using, and they don't make it easy. I'm sure, you know, I'm sure there is, you can get to a place where that's not interfering anymore, but I haven't found it yet. It seems like every time I restart or every time anything gets updated, it gets undone. Everything that I've done to make that nonsense go away just keeps happening. All right. So my first thought was a cupcake, but I gotta think of something to put in the bottom of this box. Wow. Okay. So I don't know how well this is going to work. Let me pull up for a second and see what I got to work, what kind of space I have to work with. Yeah, something like that. Work like that. And here, like that. Eventually. Let's get this saved. Okay. Wow, I'm glad the back of my head is nice and small in the corner. It's got to be quite a thing to look at. All right, and the mic is right down here. Try to keep it off frame, but also close enough to my mouth so you can hear me muttering while I'm doing this. All right. So something. Oh, that's the other part. The way I have the mic set up, it's picking up me from on top, and it's really got the keyboard all nice and loud. The keyboard is in like perfect range, so you're going to hear every keystroke or whatever crazy loud anytime I hit the space bar or whatever. I'm sure it's going to sound like a typewriter from the 40s. So sorry about that. If I figure out a way to solve that, I will. But I think this is a bit more successful than last week. I think last week was was a stuttery mess. At least what got recorded, what got backed up onto YouTube. I'm not sure. I couldn't have anybody check the live feed, but yeah, it was pretty stuttery, and that when the signal isn't loud enough and it's being digitized, that digital kind of noise bed, that kind of shimmering sound that happens with digital when it's not a high enough signal and it's being digitized, kind of on the go, as on the fly, as streaming is. It sounded really terrible. So I may go back and maybe do a time lapse or something of that. So like make it look like a speed drawing video and put some pleasant sound, or re-talk over it or something to make that actually a watchable video, because I think the first version of it is miserable. It's pretty unusable, or pretty unwatchable, and I think that's why it doesn't have any views. Yeah, because it's not a good thing to even put on in the background, because it's just a shimmery, weird outburst, and then the Amazon guy comes. But yeah, so hopefully when this archives, it'll be a nicer thing, and I won't have to do anything. I mean, I guess that's obviously the goal with YouTube, in a way. Live streaming is becoming popular because you're generating an hour's worth of content or whatever, just doing something that you would be doing anyway, playing a game or drawing, doing your makeup or whatever. And yeah, so just getting something that doesn't need to be cut up and doesn't need to be dealt with is ideal. So what about the loot? This way. Okay, so in that case, put this up here and fill her up. There. Oh, there we go. So I can play around with that. Yeah. Okay. Still don't know. Okay, I guess I should, there's that flashlight, there's that light bulb, there's some more ketchup. Oh right, there's still some other nonsense in these layers. Yeah, I don't think anything. Oh, my weird fork. Is that something? Oh, that's another blank layer. Oh, more mayonnaise. Ooh. Yeah, this is stuff, the old stuff that floated around from other. Okay. Yeah, thinking about packaging things. Oh. Wow. So let's get zoomed in here. So yeah, sorry. See, that's that keyboard thing I'm talking about. If I hit those keys too sharp, it's gonna sound terrible, especially in headphones. That's gonna be pretty miserable. Oof. All right, so we're already at an hour and a half. Wow, it took an hour and a half for just that one cartoon. Oh my god. All right. Well, yeah. See, I'm making myself laugh, and I'm not getting anything done. Okay. The yeah. So what is in here? So it's either liquid, right? What is that? Yeah, what's a horrible liquid to give as a gift? I'm so sorry. Okay, I think I just thought of the idea. I don't know if this is gonna work. It's kind of ugly. It's kind of a ugly idea. But yeah, okay, this is what it's gonna be. All right, so bear with me as oh no, I think I want to go off. Yeah, bluish off white, and you will find out why soon enough. And maybe this has to go. Yeah, it already is up. So, but I have to pull this to for now. Okay. So let's just deal with this right now, and then do that kind of card color side. Yeah, something a little. Yeah, I wonder how. I've been going back and forth. Yeah, this is right on top of the mic, and this is back. This is more comfortable, so I hope that level is okay. Because I think I've been sitting at in that position for most of the stream, but I hope that's okay. Oh, what's this all about? Okay, and yeah, that can't be red, so I have to come up maybe like a foresty. And yeah, maybe this cardboard works too. Boom. Okay. Now I'm gonna find that layer again. My little but it has to go. It'll have to go above. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, and then that will have to go. All right. And but I think I have to do this. Oh boy. Okay, it can't look that clear, so maybe just there. It's got to be darker. Saturation. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so oh, that might work. Yeah, leaving that might be better. Okay, let's go this way and this. Oh, and this. Okay. All right, so then just the shading. Yeah, so that might be the way to go. This is the joke. Sometimes will be a Horrible reveal. Okay. Hmm. Let's see. Here. And a little bit. Less than that. A little bit back here. Here. Yeah, so I don't know. I hope this doesn't become a live stream of bad joke reveals. I don't know. That'll be okay. I've got somewhere here. Soon have one of those. Nope. Yeah, some colors, the way that they act with shading, you're not gonna get back. Okay, that's everything. All right, here and here and this edge. Yeah, sometimes I really like how you can. I kind of want to make this look shiny. You can kind of cut into that shadow and really get a nice effect. Not sure if that's reading right, like this, like the, you know, like that, like the edge of the box. I really like how that looks. Catch that, it makes it stand out, so you get a nice contrast against the line art, because sometimes the line art isn't amazing. And I'm always surprised how the little bit of rendering I do helps kind of amorphous, not well drawn or well structured objects. You know, just a little bit of rendering really helps a lot. Give you a nice, so that's not gonna, yeah, it gives you a nice look very quickly. Pops things out and makes them look more structured a little better. Okay, here we are. So let's see how I can do. Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I still think that needs to be darker, but there's nothing I can do. No. Edge of the... Yeah. I don't know if that's going to read, but we'll see. The nice thing, oh, that's the other thing maybe you can't tell from this video, is that I have this on an arm. Maybe I'll move the camera one of these days, but yeah, so I can knock it into the microphone. So it makes it a little bit more adjustable. You can just lay on it and twist it around. That makes it more, yeah, much more versatile. I would highly recommend, instead of the stand it comes with, or the larger versions have a really big heavy stand, but I really love the arms that have tension on them that you can lock into certain positions or just increase the tension so they stay in certain positions. I really like the flexibility of that, and then being able just to move it out of the way. You don't have to completely occupy a surface, you know, with this thing, which is nice because then it lets you do a lot more. But I really like that. Okay, so I think that's it. So let's do the shadow under. Give it its place. Oh, and I think I'm gonna have to do another. Just like with the ketchup, I'm gonna have to do another stray drop. Joke funnier, right? Okay. Well. Okay. Raggedy looking. All right, so go. Well, hopefully this was a decent balance of drawing and talking. I'll get better at this, hopefully. Keep the silence to a minimum, but keep the drawing actually moving forward. I think this took the longest possible amount of time to do, but yeah. 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 All right. And actually, things can get a little bit, but not with them selected like that. What? Oh, not selecting everything. That's it. Okay. So select all these layers. And yeah, I think the composition could be a little bit better. But I kind of like this, and it's. I think ultimately it's better when objects are smaller in the frame, especially when it gets resized for the web. I think that works much better. Okay, so here's the joke as I was trying to figure out what to put in the box. Here's the joke. It was... Oh, and I didn't do my droplet yet. It's now clear why blood was donated and not gifted. That's the joke. That's what's in the box. It's a blood donation, but they're trying to gift some blood. There we go. And that's how the magic happens. So we're gonna have to have a couple of blood drops to make that extra funny. All right. So. Oh yeah, maybe maybe I got to get the blood on the ribbon too. That'll be good. Yeah. Blood there. There we go. Okay, and of course that layer is going to be soaking in. Maybe not that much. Maybe overlay. Soak it in. All right. Yeah, that works. And okay. Yeah, we're gonna mess with that. Okay. There we go. Now it's nice and bloody. So now clear. Maybe this was why blood was donated and not gifted. Yep. That might be the wrong tone. I don't think I've ever written this. This was why blood was donated and not gifted. Because how do you wrap it? Okay, that works. Oh, and I have to do my thing. Ever since, a single word that I spelled wrong once, because I didn't use the spell check in Photoshop. And it haunts me to this day. Oh. Whoa. Okay. Oh, maybe I need Save. Save. Huh. Oh. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. One of them wasn't making this very easy, and this was why blood was donated and not gifted. Wow, a ketchup and blood joke. You lucky people. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and yeah, please take a look at the website abusecartoons.com, and if you want domestic abuse delivered to your inbox, try gocomics.com/domestic abuse. And thanks for watching. And yeah, we'll have more next week. So if you enjoyed listening, please come back next week and hear and watch some more. So until then, thanks. Bye.